Welcome to another edition of Talking with WIT, Kevin and Son. This episode is brought to you by RMK Productions and the 10 United Podcast Network. Our mission is very simple. It's to uplift through the power of your voice, inspire, share stories and experiences using the perspectives of framework, teaching, and learning. Our purpose is very simple. We create hope, helping other people every single day. Today, we are welcoming a very, very, very special guest and someone a lot like me. He is the co-founder of a shoe company called Xero Shoes. We will talk about problem with your feet. We will talk about the solution, how he came up with it. But before we go on, I want you to stick around and hear this man's story because between him and his wife, Stephen, I'm going to say this again. It sounds like fashion, but I'm going to say Sashen. Hopefully, I'll get your name right. Believe it or not, everyone screws up Macklemore. So if I screwed up your name, please forgive me. I'm just going to call you Steven going forward. But he is the co-founder of Xero Shoes, and he is a phenomenal person. He has created something that's going to change the way not only do you look at your feet, how you feel, and it's going to explain the story why you should be more connected with your feet. It's not just a shoe problem. It's a problem that we need to change. Stephen, welcome to Talking with Kevin and Son. How you doing?
I'm doing well, but I want to amend or pen something you said at the very beginning. You said this is another episode. This is going to be more than another episode. This is going to be unlike any other episode. Just because from the brief conversation we had, this one's going to be special. I'm really looking forward to it.
I am so happy when I get a guest that finally does the work for me, takes over my show and whatever. And I'm going to tell you, you can have the mic because I'm going to tell people is that from everything that I've read about you, every interview that I've seen, this man is the real deal. He is unique. When I talk about a gift to the world, this is the reason why the world is going to be a better place because people like Stephen. I just experienced a couple of days ago of climbing Pikes Peak. And when you get 14,000 feet up in the air and you get a chance to witness what God has built, when you come back to earth, God introduced you to someone that you should know. And he introduced me to Stephen. Thank you, Stephen, for coming on here. Let's change
Oh,
the world.
let's do it. Well, and also wait, one other thing you said that you and I are very much alike. Anyone who's watching this on video can see that there's maybe a little discrepancy between you and me, but that's just the outside part.
What's the discrepancy that you're a big shoe manufacturer and I'm a person that just makes a living talking? I don't see any
Good point.
difference. I
Really?
believe it or not, from what I understand, 97.6 going through my blood is the same as 97.6 going between you. I'm
Oh, I
five
think
10 and a half. How tall are you?
I'm 5'5" on a tall day.
Okay, then we're the same. Okay. So trying to trick me up like we're someone different. We're all the same people. We're all living the dream. We're all loving life, and we're all trying to make a difference in people's life. You're here because you're someone special. I only showcase people that are giving back and making a difference. I do not show up to deposit in someone's bank account. I show up every single day and bring people that they want to give back. And my grandfather always said, when you get to a place in life that you can help someone else out, he says your duty to do so. And that's the reason why the background logo says reach one, teach one. So
Oh,
Stephen,
I
tell us a
love
little
it.
bit about yourself.
Well, and there's another thing that's related to that. I was recently invited to be interviewed at a big conference for copywriters and advertisers. And I said, ultimately, you want to work for someone who allows you to do two things. And sometimes you'll find someone who can do one. Rarely will you find someone who lets you do two. And most of the time, you're doing zero. And those two things are tell the truth and change people's lives demonstrably, not because you're selling them some hope, but because they're actually reporting, oh my God, you changed my life. And I'm thrilled to say, we're sort of on the same page about that. It's like those, if you can do those two things, everything else is effortless.
Yeah, and you share this dream with your wife, am I correct?
Uh, we do now, not at first.
Okay. All right. Hey, Steve, I'm going to tell you something. And this is going to be a little bit off the subject, and I'm just sharing because I just had a conversation with a young mother. I asked her how her day was doing, and she says, fine. She had a 7-year-old son standing beside him. And I said, how are you doing, young man? And he says, I am living my best life.
Nice.
7 years of age. I've never heard a child say that.
No,
Um,
that's a good one. You just gave me a flashback. I remember being about 6 or 7, and I went to this day camp a couple blocks away from the house that I grew up in, and I have this memory of like rolling out of bed at 6 in the morning, being so excited, knowing that everything I was going to do that day was something that was my favorite thing to do. And um, yeah, I mean, right now I'm just working my butt off. But when I see the effects of it, that's my favorite thing. But yeah, I don't care if you're 7 or 70, if you can look forward to your day like that, that's a big deal.
and Stephen, from age one to your present age, have you always been one of these people that I look at you as not a person that his cup is half empty? I think your cup is overflowing and you're pouring into other people. Have you always been someone that were putting others' needs first before yours?
Candidly, no. It's just that my self-centeredness happens to only work when I'm dealing with other people and when I'm engaged with other people. And frankly, I'm someone who, when someone says, "Is the cup half full or half empty?" I said, "I don't know what you mean when you say cup." So that's just a whole way of thinking of things that doesn't make any sense to me. So what I am is someone who has, for whatever reason, from as far back as I can remember, just tried to find things that were interesting for me to do. And I've been able to make a living just doing things that I found interesting, but they always only involve other people. So I was a professional stand-up comedian. I developed software that has changed a couple of worlds. And then Xero Shoes and my wife, same sort of thing. So I've just been lucky enough the that partly I just realized this, partly the things that I find interesting are things that are clearly problems for other people, and I figured out solutions for them. So that's where my brain goes. Basically, I know when I'm annoyed, but then I know why, and then I try to find a solution.
All right. That's yeah, everyone's searching for their why. You seem to know your why. Where'd you graduate from high school?
Walt Whitman High School, Bethesda, Maryland,
What's that? You play sports?
gymnastics and track and field.
What was your event in track and field? And the reason why I said we're not too far removed, I already know this answer, yeah, but I'm going to share it with it. I ran track and field too. What was your event?
Well, in high school, I was a 100-meter guy until everyone else in high school got way taller than me. And the coach, and I'm putting that in air quotes, who was our science teacher who didn't know anything about coaching, didn't know how to deal with the fact that I was getting shin splints and it was a form issue. And so I switched from the 100 to doing long jump and pole vault. But now at 62, I'm still a competitive sprinter. I got back into competitive sprinting when I was 45. So for men over the age of 60, I'm like the 20th fastest guy in the country, and I run this 60-meter indoor, 100-meter outdoor.
All right. So the reason why I asked that is because I too have a background, and people seem to migrate. And when I heard over 60, I'm 65. And because of this interview, I mean, over the weekend, Manitou Wall, I climbed over the
Yep.
weekend. I hiked Garden of the Gods in Denver, and I also did Pikes Peak all in 4 days. And over the weekend, because of you, I went to the track. And I said, you know
Nice.
something, I am going to be at 65 years old because I just told someone we should never stop sprinting. And in my book, in X's and O's, I always say we should run wind sprints.
Well,
So
where are you living?
Philadelphia, outside of
Okay.
Philadelphia,
Go to USA Track and Field, usatf.org, and look up the Masters Track and Field events. And
right?
so since you just turned 65, you're at the bottom of a new age group, 65 to 69. That gives you a nice little advantage. And what I can tell you about Masters Track and Field, and it's probably true about other sports as well, but I don't know the other sports, is I have never met anyone on the track that I don't adore, because we're at an age where we're still working really hard to do something where there's no monetary value, there's no sponsorship deals. We're really competitive, but we're old enough to know that we're really competitive and that it's stupid to be that way, but that's just the way we are. So it's just kind of entertaining. Everybody I meet on the track, it's like a secret handshake of like, "Oh, you're an idiot too. I love you." and we just have a good time. And I have a fondness for like telling what I call the whole truth. So at the beginning of a race, there'll be a bunch of guys getting really, psyched up and really intense. They'll go, "Hey, have a good race, man." And I go, "Hey, look, just have fun, stay healthy, get to the end, and still be able to, do whatever's next." And more importantly, or at least equally importantly, I totally want to kick your butt. And and as long as we're both on the same page about that, we're gonna have a good time. And in fact, there's a meet at the end of every outdoor season where there's an age graded 100 meters. So the older you are, the less you have to run. And the age grading to determine how less you have to run is so good that it's always a photo finish, not for first, for all 8 places. Like everybody hits the line at the exact same time in that last step. But the fun part, the reason that I say I adore all these people, is you have to pay $5 to get in this race. And the winner gets half of that money, and second place gets 30%, and third place gets 20%. And I've initiated a policy that whoever wins has to buy pie for everybody else. And so we go out to this amazing pie place in upstate Colorado and just have a good time. So,
Well,
Master Track, highly recommended.
I am going to come and invite and spend some time with you. My
Okay.
word is my bond. And one of the things that I said when I created my podcast is that I only wanted people on my show to tell the truth, because I am probably the most direct person in the world, and I show up every single day to win. And
Nice.
it is not to destroy anyone's ego, whatever, but
Yeah.
I show up to win. So I am
Yeah.
looking forward to lacing up. Hopefully that Xero Shoe makes a good track spike. So I don't have to
Well,
go off brand.
um, we don't yet, but two things about that. This is way off tangent for people who are not into track. The shoe that I wear most often, which is this one, it's called the Speed Force. I actually developed this with a guy who spent 30 years at Nike working directly with Phil Knight. And he was trying to get Phil to make a shoe that worked the way human feet work, and it never happened. But we developed this shoe together, and it works just as well as a Spike. At the same time, he and I are working again. In fact, we're talking tomorrow about the most radical track spike ever made, with some very interesting lack of technology and some very interesting technology that I can't say more other than when I added the technology part, I was stunned at what a difference it made. I haven't gotten on the track to prove that it does what I think it does, but my suspicion is that the first time we have a nationally ranked sprinter wearing that shoe, within a week it'll be banned by the US Olympic Committee. Not because it's performance enhancing, but it is, but because we'll have a patent on it and the big companies won't be able to replicate it. And they don't like that. That's happened before. I don't know. You may be just old enough to remember the brush spike that
Yep.
I think, yeah. So that got banned for the same reason, not because it was better, although it might have been, but because no one else could do it because of the patent.
All right. So, I can almost guarantee you, and I would say that 50% of the conversation that you don't want to have because it has to be protected, I can almost guarantee you that I'm in line with this. And I had a dog that was sick, and I started studying the way a person's foot was supposed to connect to the ground and how we're supposed to move. And I studied the way an animal's paw was to do, and I designed a product called Beyond Paws. It is a product, and I'll share this with you. I'm not going to tell all the details, but it allows the protection of an animal's paw to be protected from salt, debris, spikes, or anything else, um, without it interfering with how his feet naturally flex and extends, and how his toes contract, and so forth. So if it's anything like that, I pretty much tell you that I've got a
It's
drawing that I want to show you.
Well, I want to see that independently. It's not. Um, and or I'll say it slightly differently. The part about letting your foot move naturally, that's true. But I'm using there's the lack of technology part where we've gotten rid of things that are unnecessary. The technology part, I'll give it away this way. It uses a semi-common material in footwear in a way that it feels like on every step that you take, it's like you're pushing out of the blocks.
Right.
And it just does something very, very clever. In fact, the way it came about was I met a guy who started a company to make this kind of a product 13 years ago. I told him what I wanted to do, and it took him 13 years to make this thing for me. But then he found other applications for it, so it's doing really well for their business. But it was something that when he first showed it to me, I went, "This is what we talked about." He went, "Yeah, I made it for you." It's super clever. So we can do that offline.
Well, look, I will definitely share that with you. So let's do this for our listeners. We can talk about, our little
Yeah,
things
this is
going
just
back and
you and
forth
me.
out camera. But I want to include our listeners in there. I want to go ahead and let's talk about the problem with our feet in the shoes that we're wearing. I basically, when I talk about it, I said our feet weren't meant to be in coffins, and that's basically what it is. The elevation of the shoes that we're wearing right now throws off the spinal cord. I talk about this all day long because I have a degree in kinesiology, studying the human body and movement. And people don't realize we buy shoes that look good, but in the back of our mind, we're buying shoes that are supposed to perform well, and the shoe is doing everything but. So let's talk
Yeah.
about the problem of the shoes, and let's talk about how you came up with the solution.
So let's take it kind of up a layer and say we're not even talking about shoes, we're talking about optimal human function. And I say that because there's some ideas. If I start talking about shoes, the problem is that we have 50 years of big shoe companies saying what we're doing is right, but if you're having a problem, it's because of you, or it's because running is inherently problematic. None of those things are true. So I don't want to get into arguments with people about things that they believe, even if they believe them because someone else told them over the last 50 years. So I want to start with something that seems self-evident, and then we're going to see how it applies to footwear, if it applies to footwear. So I like to ask people, is weaker better than stronger? Typically, they say no. And I go, cool. If you were going to make your arm weaker, how would you do that? And they say things like, well, don't use it. I go, yeah. Like what happens if you put your arm in a cast so you can't use it? 8 weeks later, does it come out weaker or stronger? They go, weaker. I go, and you just said that weaker isn't better. So not letting something move is not better. It makes you weaker, and it does. That one's easy. Your arm gets atrophied by not using it. Use it or lose it. Couldn't be more simple. Or I like to ask questions like, is restriction better than freedom? And they go, no. I go, cool. Yeah, because if you restrict things, it doesn't let them move. And we just said that if it doesn't move, it can make you weaker over time and has other problems as well. I like to say, is is improper alignment, being misaligned, better than proper alignment? And they go, no. I go, yeah, that one's an obvious one. We'll come back to that one. Or I like to ask, is being numb better than feedback and feeling and sensation? And they go, no. I go, yeah, because if you can't feel things, like imagine trying to text if you were wearing mittens. It doesn't work very well. So now that we have some ideas that we probably agree on, that stronger is better than weaker, that feeling is better than numbness, that movement is better than restriction, that alignment is better than misalignment, let's take a look at your average shoe. And I'm going to use a athletic shoe, but this is true about most footwear. So let's talk about that freedom part first, because this is the easiest one. I look at the toe box of a shoe, everything from the ball of your foot forward, and I ask people, is that the shape of your foot? And if they say yes, I go, it's not supposed to be. Your toes are supposed to spread and flex and bend and move. And if you're squeezing your toes together, that creates problems. It can create bunions, but it also just makes it so you can't move your toes properly. If you can't move your toes, remember, not moving makes things weaker. In fact, if you can't move your big toe almost independently, it means you're not using the muscles in and around your arch, which makes your arch either weaker, which can create flat feet, or hypertonic. It makes it try to hold on even tighter, which can create a super high arch, which also creates problems. So narrow toe box, not a good thing for feet. Next, let's talk about that elevated heel that you mentioned. It does exactly what you said. It tips your center of mass forward, and you have to adjust with your ankles, your knees, your hips, or your back. And whichever is the weakest link in that chain is going to have problems. So that's not a good thing. We talked about that feeling versus numbness. All that cushioning, how much can you feel? You have more nerve endings in the soles of your feet than anywhere but your fingertips and your lips.
Right.
That's so you can tell what you're stepping on or stepping in. So your brain knows how to move your body by letting your feet bend and flex and move. Because you have a quarter of the bones and joints of your whole body in your feet and ankles. If you can't feel, your brain doesn't know what to do. It doesn't know how to control your feet, and they can't move. You are, pardon the technical term, screwed. So not being able to, not being able to feel is not good. And all that cushioning makes the shoe stiff. And again, all those bones and joints in your feet is so they can bend and flex and move. So put all that together, and there are a couple other things, but those are the biggies. So now let's take a look at a solution. Now, FYI, this was how most footwear was made prior to about 1972. And oh, people are going to say, but I need the cushioning because I'm running and running is really hard. Well, what I can tell you is we're going to have a quick physics lesson. Cushioning doesn't cushion. What cushioning does is it spreads the pressure of running out so your foot doesn't feel it. It basically makes the wave form of the pressure wider than the sensory input distance in your foot itself. So where the nerves are, if the wave is bigger than where the nerves are, like any two together, if the wave is bigger, you just don't get that feedback. That was a little too more technical than I wanted. Suffice it to say, the pressure gets distributed, but the force still has to go somewhere. So I like to bring up this thing. There's an old slow motion film, one of the first ones ever made, of a big fat guy, circus guy, taking a cannonball to the stomach. And what you see is the pressure gets dissipated by the fat rippling on his body and he kind of bends around it. But the force still sends a 350-pound guy flying in the air.
Right.
So now the problem with that force is if you're landing usually on your heel with your legs somewhat outstretched, that force is going past the joints that have control and feedback to joints that don't, like your knee and your hip and your back. And because they're not wired to feel things the way your feet are, by the time you have a hip, back, or knee problem, the problem was caused months earlier. You just couldn't feel it till it was too late.
Right.
So. What do we do instead? Wider foot-shaped toe box to start. The first thing that people say when they put on our shoes is, "Oh my God, I can like spread my toes out. This feels great." The second thing they say is, "Oh my God, they're so light. It feels like I'm not even wearing anything." Because once we get rid of all those extra features, things get lighter. The next thing they say is, "I feel like I'm standing up straighter," because we're not elevating their heel. And they are. The next thing they say is they walk around and they go, "It feels like I'm getting a foot massage," because we make the sole thick enough to give you the little bit of protection you actually need, but also flexible enough so your foot can bend and flex and move properly, and you can actually feel things and get that feedback that your brain needs to help you move effectively and efficiently. And there are a couple other little things. We also make things self-adjusting. So the strap system that I designed is not sewn into the shoe, so it can give you just a perfect fit no matter what. We make things, again, super lightweight. If you want more protection, you keep in the insole that we give you, or you take it out if you want more of a barefoot feeling. And the biggest thing that we do that's different than a traditional shoe, they make these things so that they wear out within a couple hundred miles. Basically, the foam starts to break down the moment you start wearing the shoe. And we don't have that midsole foam, so these things don't break down like that. And we could make our rubber more durable than what's made to wear out as soon as the foam starts to wear out. So our shoes and sandals and boots are all backed with a 5,000-mile sole warranty. Now, are you going to guaranteed put in 5,000 miles and have the shoe still working? Well, I can't guarantee it. That's why it's a warranty. If you wear it out faster than that, we'll get you a new pair for a fraction of the cost. And no one else is doing anything like that. And then last but not least, I mentioned how light they are, is if people can see behind me, we have a whole line of shoes, boots, and sandals for casual and performance use that people use for everything from professional sports, baseball, football, soccer, basketball, to just hanging out with their friends, to taking a stroll, to going out for a night on the town, to being on the beach. So everything we do is just designed to let your feet do their job so the rest of your body can do its job. And what we hear from now almost 2 million people is, like I mentioned before, the number of reviews that we have that use the phrase life-changing is through the roof. The number of customers of ours who own more than 5 pairs of our shoes is unheard of. The number of families who say they will only wear Xero shoes and combined they have 100 pairs. No one's ever seen anything like this in footwear before. So we're thrilled that we're changing people's lives in various ways. Sadly, there's a bunch of research coming out in the next couple of months I wish I could talk about because it talks about specific health issues that have been addressed with what we're doing, but I can't talk about what they are. I mean, fundamentally, we're a health and wellness company disguised as a footwear brand.
You're more than just a health and wellness company disguised as a foot brand. You're something special in business itself because, I just had this conversation. I did an interview talking about Hyundai Motor Company. And I said that anytime that a person puts a warranty on a product, it's telling you prepare for your product to break down. You just put You just said this a conversation. I have no experience in designing shoes, and I've told people, I said the performance of your shoe will wear down before the look of your shoe.
Yeah.
And the reason why you're buying a shoe is to perform. And you just said you put a warranty on your product that's designed to be able to be consistent. You know how many people that I know and I have relationships that are doing trail running after running marathons and everything else and whatever. This product is going to go off this shelf once they
Yeah.
realize and understand the science behind it. I just said that I returned to the track, and I've been looking for shoes for until I found out the relationship that you have with another major brand. And I'm going to stop. I'm going to cancel the order of the 6 pair of shoes that I bought at an average of 180 something odd dollars a pair.
Oof.
I'm going to cancel that, and out of camera, we're going to work out a relationship because um, I do plan on beating you. I'm going to try. We talk
Again,
about the
I'm
truth.
cool. I'm cool with that. I mean,
I
look, I'm happy for friendly competition, and I don't really care who wins. I mean, look, it would be nice if I did. It's a lot of fun, but it's the going out and doing it. It's the commitment to
that,
getting there. That's what makes it
that
fun.
that's what life is all about. When I talk about success, and we're going to talk about your success also, because I'm going to add you to the list of the 100 people that are going to talk about the secrets to their success. And so that by the end of this show, we're going to talk about your takeaway and what your secrets are and how you're living your life. I'm not talking about your bank account because I don't think success can be measured by a P&L sheet.
Yeah.
It can only be measured by the experience and the difference you make in people's lives. So I thank you. Can you repeat again that warranty that comes with your shoes?
Well, let me back up. Your point of, people say a warranty because they do think it's going to wear out. And it's true. But the difference is that what we're saying, and your point, the shoe will wear out before the looks wear out because the parts of the shoe that are wearing out are the things that break down. Again, mostly the foam outsole and the foam midsole and the rubber outsole. Well, again, we got rid of the foam midsole basically. So all we have left is the rubber outsole. When we approached our outsole manufacturer and we said, we want to make something that's flexible, that's durable, that's abrasion resistant and grippy as well. And we gave them a bunch of specs. They said, but that's not how they make rubber for running shoes. We went, yeah, no joke. That's why we want to do it this way. So our point by saying a 5,000-mile warranty, it's compared to when running shoe companies say you need to replace these every 200 to 300 miles, or even more for the big, thick, super thick shoes. They say replace those within 50 to 150 miles. And now there are shoes that the big companies are making. They say they're only good for one race. They will break down by the end of the race. And we think that's reprehensible. The best thing we can do for the planet when it comes to manufacturing footwear is to keep things out of landfills for as long as possible, because all the green stories in footwear are completely bogus. But keeping things out of landfills by making them more durable, that's real, and that's what we're committed to. So wait, what was your question?
uh, you're amazing. I'm going to say that for one. You're amazing. And the reason why I say you're amazing is because you create. When someone asked me what was my one word, and I said hope. I've been saying this since the third grade. My third grade teacher asked me, asked us in the class, at the end of when your life comes to an end, how do you want to be remembered? And I basically said, I want people to say that I made a difference in their life. You are making a difference in people's lives every single day, young and old. The education, which is going to be the hard part because there's multiple millions of dollars that's being spent.
It's surprisingly simple because it's not about education, it's about experience. When people just try the shoes on, they have an experience that's so different than what they've had before. That's what opens their mind. Then the education can happen afterwards because they're curious, like, what's been going on? Why have I been fooled? Why didn't I know about this? Now, there are ways of doing it in advance, and I've done those too. But fundamentally, all that quote educational stuff we're doing, all that kind of marketing that we're doing is just to get people to be open to having the experience. And that's what takes it over from there. My favorite funny story about this, one of the guys working for us, He was actually working at REI in the footwear department and kept sending customers to us until finally he went, I can't keep working here. And he's been working for us for a few years. So he brings shoes home and gives a pair to his dad, who had this like, oh my God moment. But his mom was like, no, I need big padding and I need all the arch support and I need all these different things. And she just like had no interest for about 3 years. And finally, just from hearing her husband and her son say how much they loved their Xero shoes, she went, okay, fine, I'll try a pair on. And an hour later, she makes a video where she starts by saying, why didn't you tell me these are so amazing? And so it's just from her experience. And again, as a marketing savvy person, I don't know what that means, as someone who's interested in marketing, um, all I'm trying to figure out is what are the different ways that we can find to give as many people the experience as quickly as possible. And there's some, as the company has grown, we've had more opportunities for doing that. And I've come up with a bunch of super clever things. But ultimately, what convinces people is not information. It's either their own experience, but even then, it's their own experience waking them up to something that they didn't know before, or that they believed before and they just found out is not true. So your thing is you want in your dying breath to know that you've changed people's lives. Mine is a version of that, which is I want them to say that I helped them discover something true.
Well, speaking of the truth, I'm going to do this because the only way we're going to get to experience is that we have people come on the show and tell the truth. I'm going to
Yeah.
ask you how do people get in touch with you? How do they get a pair of your shoes? And I'm going to say this to anyone and everyone: if you watch this interview with Stephen and I, and you go on his website and you order a pair of shoes and you live in those shoes and experience, I would like to invite you on my show. And I'll bring Stephen on if Stephen will grant us another interview.
Happy to.
And we will talk and answer your questions and talk about your shoe. And
Sure.
like I said, we want to talk about the truth. So my website is www.rmkproductions.org. If you are a person that has purchased a pair of his shoes from his website, and I'm going to give him a chance to give that information. And Stephen didn't even know I was going to say this, but I think the best source of marketing is referrals. If you love a product, we normally tell one or two people.
Yep.
I'm on a global platform, and I think everyone should know this should not be the best kept secret in the foot business. So I want to eliminate the conversation of what's wrong with your foot, your back, your knees, and everything else. And I want to help you find the answer and go to Xero Shoes. So, Stephen, how do we get in touch with you, and how does a person get a pair of your shoes?
Simple. Go to Xero Shoes, and it's Xero shoes.com. We also have xeroshoes.eu and xeroshoes.co.uk, speaking of global things. We also have a store locator on our website, and there's stores and more coming on literally every week. And especially starting in the spring, we've got a lot more stores coming on. So you'll find things there. And we're selling on a bunch of online platforms. So you can go there, take our shoe finder quiz, or contact our customer happiness team to get advice. We have a lot of different products. If you're not sure which to get, they're happy to help you out. And the one thing that I'm going to mention is, since one of the things we opened with about footwear and feet is this whole use it or lose it thing. If you've been putting your feet in a foot coffin, a term that I also use, and you haven't been letting your feet bend and flex and move and haven't made them as strong as they could be, you want to think about switching to Xero Shoes like going to the gym if you haven't been for a while. You don't just go back to your original workout after you've taken time off. You're going to start doing a embarrassingly small amount of weight with an embarrassingly small amount of sets and reps, and then listen to your body as you build up time, effort, reps, sets, etc. Same idea here. So if you're walking or standing, start small. Start with an hour and see how you feel. If it feels like you've just been to the gym, good news. Then you're going to get stronger over time, and it's going to happen faster than you think. There's research showing just wearing a pair of minimalist shoes and walking in them for 8 weeks builds strength as much as doing a foot exercise program. So just spend, little time every day, a little more, a little more, a little more, as your body tells you that you're ready for it. So that's the simple thing. So go to xeroshoes.com. You'll find links that you can click to find the shoe that you like. Again, contact us if you have any questions and give them a whirl. I will say that sizing is one of those things that is impossible to do perfectly, which is why we do free exchanges for sizing. So if you get something, try it on in your house. If it's not the right size, give us a shout. We do a free exchange until we get the right size for you. And then I would love to hear your experience. Even if your experience is not ideal, because where we learn the most is from things that are not necessarily ideal. And by diagnosing and addressing those things, which doesn't happen very often, I'll admit, but when those do happen, we learn more from things going awry than we do from things going right. And so I'm open to the conversation no matter what it looks like.
And do you know what you just said? It's groundbreaking itself within marketing or building a brand. You've never, at least I have never, heard a CEO, a founder of a company, a designer of the company say, "Come on, talk either positive or negative about my product. Help me make the product better for you, and we will make that adjustment." No one else is doing it except for Stephen from
Wait, you want to
Xero
hear
Shoes.
something fun? First of all, thank you. And secondly, it's one of the things that I say all the time. Whenever some big shoe company says, here's our new technology, how come they didn't say, hey, our apologies for the crap we were selling up until yesterday?
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Now, this is going to go off the subject, but it's going to stay on the subject if I can. I just
Good
came back
luck.
from the Olympic Training Center um, in Colorado, which I love. I went to school to get my degree because I wanted to be Olympic track coach. I'm still not giving up on that dream. I've got two Olympic athletes that are swimmers that I have trained personally, but I'm so excited about the 2024 Olympics because there's so many outstanding athletes. If you had I'm going to say three people that you would put a pair of shoes on that are competing for this country. Who would those three people be on our Olympic team?
Well, we have a number of Olympians who are wearing our shoes.
I'll go
Um,
ahead and make some names.
I'm not legally allowed to, unfortunately, um, because they're sponsored by other companies, but they're wearing
Okay.
our shoes for everything other than the race itself, or the event itself. And so, yeah, yeah, that's a really tough one, because I can't think of just three. I kind of want to dominate all of them. I want, or more accurately, I want to give people the ability to have a product that makes them perform better. And I haven't found, other than certain kinds of technical rock climbing, and ice skating, or anything on ice, or on snow. Even on snow, we can be helpful there too in certain sports. Um, there are very, very, very few places where letting your foot do what it's made to do and doing that in a shoe like ours is not beneficial. So I'm yeah, I'm not going to be able to answer that question, because it's like literally everyone that I look at, I go, man, we could help you, we could make you better.
Well, let me say this. I have a lot of personal relationships with people that are currently going into professional sports, people that have retired. If you look at some of my interviews, there's been a couple of professional basketball players, football players, and so forth that are still walking around and still competing in things that I know for a fact that don't have shoe endorsements. I know a handful of amateur athletes that are extremely competitive and gifted in their field that are, should be ambassadors for this. I mean, if you want some friends, I got some friends.
Call me baby. Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean, we're negotiating deals with a number of professional basketball players at the moment, and it's not that we're reaching out and just looking to pay them. They reached out to us and said, "How can you help me?" And we developed a shoe for them, and they said, "How can we be part of this company and tell everyone this is what they should be doing?" So, like you said before, the most effective marketing is word of mouth. It's someone saying, "Oh my God, these changed my life. You got to try them." Of course, sometimes that backfires because people think you're just being super evangelical and annoying. But if you calm down enough and listen to their objections, that's the way it works. And eventually, if people keep seeing that you're getting better and doing better, then that makes them go, "Oh." So yeah, I'm all ears, because again, not only is my goal to get people to experience the product, but the subset of that goal is getting people who do have that kind of, for lack of a better term, leverage. Uh, just their professional accomplishments would give them a certain entree into communities that otherwise they wouldn't have. That's where the real power comes from. So like these professional ball players that we can't wait till they can start talking much more openly about what we're doing together, because all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and it's gonna wake people up. In fact, I was talking to the agent for a couple of these players, and I said, the moment one of your players is in a game wearing our shoes, which has happened, I said, we're gonna get some feedback about that. And he said, yeah, Nike called me last week to find out what you're up to. I said, oh, what'd you tell them? He said, well, I didn't know. That's why I called you. So it's gonna get interesting is the best thing I can say. But yes, I would love to hear anyone that you could introduce me to would be a tremendous honor and pleasure.
Stephen, my circle of friends are people, and we have a rule. And I'm going to add this to you. We're not the type of people that drive by an accident. We stop and help. We always say yes, yes, and we have one rule. We don't mind helping you, just don't do anything to hurt us. And I'm going to add you to that circle of friends.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to open up my book of friendships to you and introduce you to another group of very gifted people that are going to sing the praises of your shoes. I
Thank you.
am, like I said, I'm going to cancel the couple $100 I ordered that I just ordered, and I'm not going to name the company that I'm canceling from, but I am going to convert over, and I'm going to start training in your shoes.
I know a guy
Okay.
who knows a guy who can hook you up.
Okay. And then we'll have pie on either side. Matter of fact, your offer, there's no lose in there.
No.
I love pie.
Who
So
doesn't
there's
anyone who doesn't like pie is not a friend of mine.
yeah, you're exactly right. That sounds like it should be on this t-shirt.
It is a good one.
All
Well,
right.
actually, wait, I take it back. The place that we go for pie, they also make the most amazing cinnamon buns. So if you don't like pie, but you're okay with cinnamon buns, I'll let you in.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking to Stephen Sashen. Sounds like fashion, but spelled with an S. He is the co-founder of Xero Shoes. One of the most, I'm saying this, he can't say this, one of the most wonderful inventions and probably the best friend to your toes or to your foot that's brought to this market. It's a different experience from what you have experienced. And like I said, it's going to be life changing for those of you. For some of us, we have to change our mindset to go from an elevated platform foot and thinking that we have cushion and think about the benefit, not only to your foot, but to your neuromuscular system, your kinetic chain, and how everything. If you've been suffering from knee pain, back pain, and so forth, it could be your feet. So again, Stephen, how do people get in touch with you?
Xeroshoes.com, xeroshoes.com, or on social media, we're at Xero Shoes or /Xero Shoes, wherever you happen to at or slash.
All right. And with the permission of Stephen, I'm putting out there that I will give you a seat at the table on this platform. If you are an owner of at least one pair of Xero shoes and you've experienced it for more than 30 days and you have an opinion or you want to talk to Stephen directly and give him some advice on how to make it better or sing the praises of what the difference is made in your foot, reach out to us at www.rmkproductions.org. There you go. www.rmkproductions.org. Stephen, I want to add you to the list of my successful friends, and I want to find out your secrets to a successful life. If you would grant us permission to share your secrets on what it takes to have a fulfilling, healthy life, how would you pass that on? What are your tips?
Um, oh boy. When people ask me how Lena, my wife and I got to where we are, I say it's 90% luck, and the other 10% is also luck. And then there's a separate 100%. It's 90% working your butt off, and the other 10% being smart enough or knowing how to find someone smart enough who knows how to put out the fires that started overnight, despite the fact that nothing changed since yesterday. So, but the more important part, because you said happy life and not just accomplishment, there are a handful of things. Actually, it's not a handful of things. It's really, boy, where to begin? Human beings, we like to, with almost every thought we have, we like to try to imagine what's going to make us happy in the future. Whether that's a minute from now, a second from now, a week from now, a year from now, at the end of our life. The problem is we're not really good at knowing whether we're right or not. And the only thing we're worse at is forgetting how bad we are at coming up with the right answer for what's going to make us happy in the future. And the only thing worse than that is we think we're special. What I mean by that is if you think having a certain amount of money is going to make you happier, and you go meet 100 people who have that amount of money or more, and you find out whether they're happier than they were before they had that money, or not, or if they're just happy now, you'll probably discover that the money is not the cause of their happiness or lack thereof. But we'll think, yeah, but I'm special. If I got that kind of money, that would be a whole different story. If I hear that lottery winners are no happier after they won the lottery, sometimes even less happy. Many of them go broke afterwards. But if I win the lottery, I'm special. Jim Carrey, the actor and comic, has been going around lately saying the worst thing that can happen to you is achieving all your dreams and then finding out that that didn't give you what you hoped it would give you. And I like to say success can be 4 times worse than failure, because if you achieve what you want and you're not happy, well, being unhappy is not fun. Having your hopes for happiness dashed is not fun. There's nowhere to go but down from there. And nobody likes to hear you bitch about how you're not happy after you became so successful. So recognizing that the thoughts that we have about what we think it's going to take to make us happy in the future are probably wrong. And by probably, I mean 99.9% of the time. It means that you're not going to be taking actions to achieve that imagined future state and then discovering that it didn't give you what you wanted and then getting back on the roller coaster or the Ferris wheel or the hamster wheel again. So when I think about the things that could happen in our future, and I think, oh, I'll be happy then, I'm very clear that that's not really the case. And it means that I'm kind of more free to then figure out what I really need to do in the moment to take the next step. I like to say, actually, there's a guy who translated the Tao Te Ching. And I said in Chinese, this idea, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But in Chinese, tenses don't work the same way. Couldn't you have translated that to the journey of 1,000 miles is a single step? And he said, yeah, your only obligation is to take, not to figure out the next 10 steps, but to figure out the next one and see if you're still pointing towards whatever 10 looked like. And if not, figure out the next step and just lather, rinse, and repeat. You can't succeed by trying to take the third step before the first, let alone the 10th or the 100th. You can come up with a good idea of what that first step is going to be, but you're not going to know the effect until you take it. And then you have to reevaluate the whole damn thing. And the only way you can do any of this is to start kind of investigating with just a sense of curiosity the things that you believe strongly about what it's going to take to be happy or what might make you unhappy. And again, look for other people. There's actually a book called Stumbling on Happiness by Daniel Gilbert from Harvard. And his strategy is similar to what I said. Go meet as many people as you can who got what you think it's going to take for you to be happy. And when you discover that they're no happier than you are, maybe you just won't believe that thought any longer. And that gives you something different / better than happiness, I would argue. And that is the ability to find contentment, the ability to recognize, for example, this is going to be a weird psychological, philosophical, spiritual game for the next 30 seconds. There's nothing that you need right now at all. Everything you need in this moment, you have. And if people say, well, I need to breathe and I need water, I need air. Well, that's only if you think you need to live. But there's nothing you don't have right now. The only thing that gets in the way of just enjoying, that's not even the right word, being consumed by the preciousness of this moment. When you realize that clearly the evidence is you have everything you need right now. If something hurts, so be it. If you want something different, so be it. But the only thing that gets in the way of that preciousness, and you shouldn't be living like this all the time, that's not possible, but you should be able to step into it whenever you like. The only thing that gets in the way is thoughts like, oh, I'll be happier if this thing happens in the future. I need to make sure the following thing doesn't happen because then I'll be unhappy. But if every now and then, for a minute every day, you just notice that you're able to breathe, you have a body, that's kind of all you need for this moment till the next moment. You just relax into that for a few seconds. You got it pretty good.
Boy, that's hard to follow up on.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything after that one either.
Steve, I want to thank you for blessing us. We could talk all day long, and I'm going to talk to you after we hit stop recording. There's some conversation that I like to have. I want to thank um, all my listeners for tuning in and listening. I hope that we said something um, that made a difference to you. And if we didn't say anything that made a difference to you, why don't you share it with someone that cares? Um, I'll say that if you want uh, to be a guest on the show and to experience and share your experience with your pair of Xero shoes, go to www.rmkproductions.org and fill in your information, and we'll have Stephen back on and have a guest. It could be one guest, it could be 50 guests. I can have up
Yeah,
to 100. We like to have your
blast.
feedback. So, Stephen, one more time, how do we get in touch with you?
Xeroshoes.com, Xero Shoes with an X, or on social media at whatever /Xero Shoes or at Xero Shoes, wherever you at or slash.
All right. And I'm going to say this to everyone every morning. And Stephen, you're going to find this once I get your personal email um, um, information. I always wake up, there's 100 people on a list every single morning. The first thought that comes to my head, I write it down. I journal like there's no tomorrow. I'm probably the only person in here with a college degree that almost graduated from college and didn't know how to read or write. I learned to read or write, learned to read and write in my junior year of college. And Stephen will talk about this later on. I'm a winner. I got my education because I was a good athlete. Um, I got my life because I decided to take control of my life. So when you talk about happiness, this is what I say to you. Happiness is not something you search for or to be filled in by someone else. Happiness is the way that you live. And so with that said, my grandfather always said that when you get to a point in life that you can help someone else out, it is your duty to do so. Said reach one, teach one. And with that said, I'll fade to black and we're out. Thank you, everyone. Stephen, thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.